Hi everyone, welcome. We hope you've had a fantastic Christmas and New Year. Once again, as I have been doing last year, I'm undertaking to interview people who are involved in the divorce and separation process or relationships. And I would like to warmly welcome Nic Beets. Hi Nic, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks Bridget. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. Well, today we're going to be talking about desperation being your ally in relation to your relationship. So Nic, tell us more about what you do. You're a clinical psychologist.
I'm a clinical psychologist, but I've specialised in relationship and sex therapy for the last 27 years or so. So I'm basically a relationship specialist.
Great. And you work with your life partner, Verity, and have a business relationshipwork.nz.
That's us. Yep. So she's a psychologist. She does the same kind of work, and of course, this is not academic for us. We've been in relationship for 41 years and counting. So we have a couple of kids. We got deeply into this when our own relationship was struggling. And we figured it was pretty embarrassing. We were telling other people how to do this, and
So what do you, with being together for 41 years and having a few blips in the road, what's your secret to a successful relationship?
Refusal to give up.
Stubbornness.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, I know. I mean, maybe stubborn. I would say persistence. I mean, I do think you have to, with a lot of challenging things, you have to want it badly.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, some people come from good families and are well resourced, and things flow pretty smoothly for them. But neither Verity and I came from families like that. So if you weren't taught good habits and skills and ways of being in your childhood, then you've got to learn them. You've got to bootstrap, and that takes work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it goes to a whole different level when you're trying to blend families after divorce and separation, doesn't it really? Absolutely.
Then you've got some real challenges in terms of priorities and loyalties, and it's a lot harder. There's no question, and the statistics bear that out. It's harder for those relationships to survive.
Absolutely. So you also coordinate a sex therapy interest group.
Yep.
You provide support to other health professionals. Supervisor role.
Yeah, and I also run a business with a different colleague, Paula Denon, providing training in couples therapy as well. So I train other therapists in doing couples therapy.
Great. And you specialise in working with people who have suffered brain injuries and obviously their families.
Yeah, I have a background in that, and ran a support group for people with brain injuries for 20 years. I've actually just stopped doing that. In fact, there's a certificate on my wall back there as a life membership for the Brain Injury Association.
Well, that's fantastic. That's admirable work. And so you're into paddleboarding, parenting. You've got 2 children, singing, and what I really like is when you don't take life too seriously.
Yeah, no. I have to remind myself sometimes, but yes, I think it's like we're here to enjoy life. I think it's right. Important.
There's no dress rehearsal. It's here and now. You'll never get this hour back. So let's make it useful for our participants, for our viewers. So why is desperation your ally in a relationship? Whoops, I think he's just frozen. Be coming back in a minute.
Okay, what happened there?
Oh, I think we just missed you for a minute.
We disappeared. All right.
We disappeared. So I was just So the question was, why is desperation your ally in a relationship?
Well, I think with a lot of people, we feel like there are things I can't say. Or things I've tried to say, and the reaction I've got was so off-putting. I don't want to try again. And so there's a whole lot of stuff we avoid doing, or we do it indirectly and it doesn't really work. And so in a lot of relationships, there's a lot that's unsaid and unspoken. And sometimes you have to be desperate in order to have the courage to really say what you think and really say what you mean and really say what you want. And desperation sometimes is what you can feel like, well, I've got nothing to lose. This relationship is over if things don't change.
You've both got to be wanting it, though, haven't you? Still wanting to make an effort in that relationship. It's got to be both partners who are wanting to try and remedy the relationship.
Yeah, you do. And obviously, if one of you is not willing to do the work, one of you is not willing to make changes or to be open, then sure. But in my experience, and obviously, I mean, I guess my experience is biased because I'm seeing people where somebody, both parties are at least willing to front up to a therapist. So that's a select audience, I guess. But in my experience, people are often feeling like they don't want to put effort in because they don't see any point. They don't think, they think things are irretrievable. And I mean, certainly part of my job is to help people say, oh, actually, there's more that you could do than you're aware of at this point.
So conflict, which is around us every single day in a lot of the relationships that we have in our life, how much is normal in an intimate relationship?
Well, I think the short answer is a lot. There's a lot of conflict is inherent in difference, and we're all different from each other. And generally speaking, we're attracted to difference. Often, if I ask somebody, "What attracted you to your partner?" What they'll answer is that they'll give me a list of how this person is different from them. Right? But the moment somebody is different from you, then they're going to see things differently. They're going to want different things. They're going to go about things in a different way. So then we're in the territory of conflict. And there's some really important research by John Gottman, who's one of the leading researchers on couples, and he's written lots of books about couples and how to make your relationship work. And in this research, they took couples who had high marital satisfaction. That was the sort of the jargon they used. Whose relationships people found very rewarding, and people who have had very low marital satisfaction. And they measured, how much upset, how much discord, how much conflict there was in the relationship. And interestingly, they found that there was no difference between the happy and the unhappy couples. So the unhappy couples and the happy couples had as much disconnect, upset, and conflict as the unhappy couples. What was different was that the happy couples knew how to repair, knew how to fix things up afterwards.
Because there's good fighting, isn't there? There is good fighting.
Yeah, there's good fighting and there's bad fighting, you need to know the difference, and you need to understand why you go to the bad places. We're all capable of it.
And going to the bad places, in most instances, can be the best thing that you've ever done.
Well, I meant it in a different way. Yeah, going into conflict, going into difficult areas certainly can be the best thing. I mean, there are people who proudly say they've never had a crossword and they've never had any problems and it's all gone easy for them, and that's great. I mean, I'm deadly envious, frankly. But in my experience, they're a very small minority of people, and the rest of us, we're imperfect people, and therefore our behaviour is sometimes imperfect, and that needs to get sorted. And, everybody has insecurities, and our insecurities make us do things to protect ourselves, and the things we do to protect ourselves often hurt our partner.
We always hurt those closest to us.
You always hurt the ones you love. You could write a song about it.
That's right. You could sing it.
No, not today.
Not today. So who's to blame in a relationship when a relationship gets into murky waters, trouble?
I mean, the obvious answer is clearly your partner, because it's not you, because you're good.
Yeah, that's right. It's
I
never
mean,
your
that's the answer that most of us, I mean, there's a fair few people who arrive, in my office kind of going, well, you need to fix my partner because they're broken, And I have to, and I mean, and in some cases that's fair enough, but most of the time that's not the case. And I think, it takes two to tango, and usually where relationships run into real trouble is that I have a bunch of insecurities that may make me do a bunch of stuff to protect myself. And when I protect myself, I trigger your insecurities, and then you do a bunch of stuff to protect yourself.
And sorry, you go.
No, go on.
I liken it to a pot plant analogy, really. If they're not coexisting in this relationship, they're actually as one. It's a living entity together.
Mm-hmm.
If you feed it and love it and nurture it, then it'll flourish. But if you just you don't feed it, you don't water it, then it will die.
Yes, in fact, I was just reading a blog from John Gottman, actually, coincidentally. He was talking about some research that that was sort of saying, there are lots of people who are spending less than 29 minutes a week on their relationship.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's not a long time. And then I read something, I think it was from Gottman as well, about it takes people 6 years to actually start talking or dealing with their relationship issues.
I mean, I wouldn't challenge him on the research. So, I certainly, in my experience, people often, what I'm used to is looking at when people seek help, and they often seek help a lot later than would be beneficial to them. And I occasionally do get people who seek help earlier on in their difficulties, and it's so much easier to sort things out.
Absolutely. So communication is key in relationships. Absolutely key. What do people do if their communication has completely broken down?
Well, I think, we have to communicate, but I think often, and this is where, I see myself more as a psychotherapist than as a counselor. For me, you have to look at, why am I struggling with communicating? And often there are underlying causes for why. It's not that I can't hear what you're saying, it's that I don't know how to handle what you're saying. So you have a complaint, and it strikes my sense of, my insecurities that I'm not good enough. And so I get defensive, right? And I'm not really responding to your complaint. I'm responding to what it's triggered in me, what I would call an insecurity in me. And that's what, and then you're dealing with my insecurity. You're not dealing with a rational response to your specific complaint, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I see over and over again as undermining communication, right? If you're asking your partner questions and you're getting, monosyllabic answers, right? They're communicating clearly. They don't want to talk, right? It's very clear communication. What do you do with that?
Stonewalling.
Yeah, stonewalling.
Yeah. So if I'm in a relationship and, we're fighting all the time, can couple therapy help us?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. My job is to help people recognize why you're fighting all the time. There are not many people who enjoy coming home and having a fight. That's not really what you want at the end of a workday or end of a busy day parenting or something. It's not relaxing.
No, it's not. It just escalates the
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, there's nothing more tiring cognitively than emotional upset. So it places the biggest demands on your brain of anything. So it really takes it out of you. So being able to recognize that actually what I'm doing isn't helpful. And I mean, what therapy can really help you do, what couples counseling can help you do, is recognize what is your contribution to the difficulties. Because often we can see really clearly what our partner's contribution is. We can see them stonewalling, or we can see them escalating, or we can see them being unreliable, or whatever it is. But often we miss our own, because we're good. Generally speaking, we're well-intentioned. We're trying to do our best, and so we can be a bit blind to what our contribution is. And so, if my partner's stonewalling, I'll be justifying to myself that I keep escalating to try and get a response out of them. But that's actually not very helpful, and I can justify my escalation, but it doesn't mean it's a wise or helpful thing to do. So,
no, absolutely. And it's difficult, isn't it, when couples just cannot talk together about anything? I mean, how are you supposed to improve a relationship if you can't talk?
Yeah, and I mean, there are certainly people who because of their experience, in their present relationship, and or more often because of past experiences, are really frightened to talk about anything, real or important or serious. And I think sometimes they do need a facilitator. I think that's okay. If it hasn't been safe for you, or you haven't been taught how to do it safely, it's okay to ask for help. I don't know about you, but I'm not very good, with accounting. I go and consult an accountant.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's right. I'm not either, by the way. But if like, for example, let's liken it to your car breaking down. You don't generally fix it yourself unless it's something minor. You go to a mechanic to get it fixed. So if your relationship's slightly broken or quite broken, then you go and see a psychologist, family therapist.
Yeah, I mean, I would, yes, go and see somebody who does a lot of couples therapy, though. By the way, just as a little sort of consumer alert, there are a lot of people who will have on their website that they do couples therapy. Ask them how much they do. And there was a guideline published by the American Association of Marital and Family Therapy, and they said you don't want to see somebody who does less than 1/3 of their practice as couples therapy.
Yeah,
and I think that's as a rule of thumb, because it's a specialist area, like lots of things, and like I guess being a divorce coach, it's like it's a specialist area, and you want people who do it all the time.
Absolutely. So, what are the signs from your perspective that it's time to separate?
Well, I think you mentioned one earlier on, which is that if one person is really unwilling to look at themselves, to do the work, to take responsibility for their contribution to things going wrong or being difficult. If somebody's stuck, so usually that person is stuck in blaming mode. It's all you. There's nothing wrong with me. If somebody's just intransigent about that, then you probably are wasting your time. I mean, sometimes that's an initial response, and you have to kind of, again, persevere past it. But I think that's a pretty serious sign. I mean, and the other one, which is not unrelated, is of course if you're fearing for your safety. You can't have an equal relationship. You can't have a relationship of equals if one person is unsafe, is intimidated.
That's right. Whether that's verbal or physical or both, you just cannot live that way. We've got a safety plan that we give out to clients or people. If anyone wants a copy of that, that's certainly available.
That's a fabulous thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really good.
It's really important. If you, I mean, certainly if you're fearing for, for your own safety or the safety of your children, it's kind of like, that's not a position where you can readily sort things out in the first instance.
So Nic, if people would like to utilise your services, how do they get in touch with you?
Email through the website, relationshipwork.nz. That's where we hang out. And I have to warn people that I nearly always have a wait list. So if people want to use me, usually you have to be prepared to wait. And generally, it's the same with Verity as well.
Yeah, well, that's a really good sign, isn't it? Because you obviously do.
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been established, and a lot of people know about us. A lot of ex-clients, a lot of other therapists, people have trained. So there's a lot of people referring to us. So, but people are happy with the results, so we're happy with that.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks, Nic, for coming on today. I'd definitely love you to come back on in the next month or two. It's been really insightful and just has given people something to think about, because I'm certainly not pro-divorce. I like people to do absolutely everything before they come and see me and decide to leave each other, because at the end of the day, you want no regrets and look back and go, if only I had actually tried a bit harder or worked on my stonewalling or was really willing to give it a go, things could have been different.
Yeah, that's great.
Great. Thank you.
I'll be happy to see you again.
Great. Bye.
See
Thank you.